today's video is all about Unit 2's first lesson. So Unit 2 is an introduction to functions, and the first learning target says, I can represent relations as tables, graphs, mappings, and sets of ordered pairs, and determine their domain and range. So these first notes, you're just folding them in half like a birthday card. So when we talk about a relation is a set of ordered pairs. And we can write a relation, or we can show the relation in 4 different ways. The first one is a set of ordered pairs. So ordered pairs mean our x, y coordinates. We can take our x, y coordinates and we can make a table out of them. We can also make a graph using all those x, y coordinates. And the last one is probably the only one you're not really familiar with. It's called a mapping diagram. So in our first example, they are giving us the relation with 3 ordered pairs in it. So my first ordered pair is -2, -1, 3, 3, and 4, 3. So in my ordered pairs, I know that x comes first and y comes after. So when I make this into my table, the x value goes in the x column, and the y value that matches up with it goes in the y column. So I can do the same thing for the next one. And 4, 3, x value is 4, y value is 3. If I wanted to make those points and make this relation a graph, well, I would just plot these 3 points. So my first point is at -2, -1. So starting at the origin, I go over to -2, down 1 point. 3, 3 would be 3 spaces to the right from the origin, and then 3 spaces up. 4, 3, I'm going over to the right 4 on the x-axis and up 3 on the y-axis. So now I can see what my relation looks like as a set of ordered pairs, as a table, and as a graph. The last one is the mapping diagram. In a mapping diagram, add yourself a little note on the side. There are no repeats. So when I fill in the x values for my mapping diagram, well, I can look at my table, and my x values are -2, 3, and 4. So I'm gonna fill the, -2 comes first, and then 3 and 4. The y values are -1, and then 3 repeats. So when we say that there are no repeats in a mapping diagram, that means I'm not gonna put 3 twice. It only shows up once. To make this an actual mapping, I need to say which x values are connected to which y values. So to do that, I would say -2 maps to -1. So I draw an arrow from -2 to -1. I know that these go together because that's what my first ordered pair is. My next pair says an x value of 3 has a y value of 3. So I would draw an arrow from 3 to 3. My last point says an x value of 4 also has a y value of 3. So I would have another arrow going from 4 to 3. So even though I didn't write 3 twice in this list, I still show that 3 happens twice as a y value by drawing the arrows from the x values to 3. So once we can represent relations, we can also find the domain and range of a relation. So the domain of a function is the set of all inputs, and inputs means our x values. The range is the set of all outputs, and outputs means the y values. When we write domain and range, we write it as a list in numeric order. So from smallest to largest. The list is written with set notation, which just means that when I write the list, I put squiggly brackets around it. And no values are repeated within the domain or range. So the same way in the mapping diagram, I didn't write 3 twice. I also don't repeat any numbers here. So in this example, this is a mapping diagram. My x values are on the left, my y values are on the right. When I'm writing my domain and range, here are all of my x values. So this shows me what my domain is. So we make a list of all those x values in order from smallest to largest. For the y values, we do the same thing. Our range is the set of all outputs or y values. So I make my list from smallest to largest in squiggly brackets. If we look at the first practice problem, we'll do one together before you try the rest of these on your own. So let's do this table right here. If I look at this table, my x values are -1, 2, 5, 9, and 42. My x values represent my domain. Now I want to put these in order from smallest to largest. Conveniently, these are already in order. So I would just write them as a list in my squiggly brackets. For the range, my y values are 7, 4, 3, -21, and 3 shows up again. When I make my list, start with my squiggly bracket, I need the smallest y value first. In this case, it's -21. And then I start listing all my other ones. So 3 would come next. 3 shows up twice in my table, but I only write it once when I'm listing out my range. The next number would be 4, and the last one would be 7. So try the rest of these. There's another table, another mapping, and 2 graphs for you to find the domain and range of. And then you can start homework number 6.